So with Pokemon Snap 2 just around the corner, I figured we could go back to the original Pokemon Snap and see what we can find out of bounds. There might have been a lot of things that I missed in the last episode, so I took a second pass and we're going to see what we can find today. Now, this episode's going to be a little bit different because using some new tools, not only will we be able to move the camera, but the game will register our camera. So we'll be able to take pictures of all the out of bounds stuff and see what Professor Oak thinks.
You were close.
So first off, we're going to be looking at reflections. I've covered reflections on the N64 games before, and usually this effect is achieved by having the models replicated on the opposite side of a plane. It's not a true mirror, it's doubling up on all these models. And I was surprised to find out that Pokemon Snap does the exact same thing, especially since those reflections are so faint. And what's interesting is that by modding the game slightly to remove the water plane, the reflection models are no longer obstructed, and Professor Oak will count the reflections as extra Pokemon in the background. And taking pictures of the reflection alone works too.
Well done.
One thing I didn't touch on last time is the Scyther grassy area. It's interesting because not only can he be seen before he's hit by a Pester Ball, but he's constantly teleporting to different spots in the grassy area, which explains why sometimes you miss him. Now this is pretty amazing. I was asked on Twitter what happens to Todd after the opening cutscenes, and because we were able to isolate the camera, Todd is actually still here, fixed behind the camera the whole time. And what's really cool is that you can even take a picture, and the game recognizes this character model as player.obj, and the game will even give you a pretty standard score.
Wonderful.
Alright, I know it's common knowledge now, but honestly, I'm probably one of the few people who didn't know Pokemon Snap was built on the same engine as almost every other N64 game. And what kind of person would I be if I made this video without looking at some of the remnants from another game? And I might have found something. Amazingly, there's a texture in here that just goes completely unseen by the player. It's the same texture that's used in the opening of Super Smash Bros. I'm gonna guess that this was probably kept in to check on lighting. Either way, it's definitely worth pointing out. Oh, and the interior of Oak's hut is fully modeled. There's an R-Wing hidden outside the Volcano level. You probably already know there's an R-Wing hidden in the code of Ocarina of Time because it was used as a base for Valvagia's movement patterns. Likewise, an R-Wing can be found in Super Mario 64, even in Pokemon Stadium's Run Rattata Run. This R-Wing probably had a similar purpose and must have been a placeholder for Moltres, which explains Moltres' movement patterns. It can be coded back, but the game still registers it as Moltres.
Oh.
And let's take a look at the volcano. The top is covered with a lava texture, and there isn't much to see. But if we pass through the texture, there is so much happening in here. There are even Pokemon you don't see anywhere else. Is that Hades from Bomberman 64? I don't think I've ever seen this much unused content in a game before, and I can't even figure out how I missed this on the first go-around. Going back to the overused engine, here's something that's pretty cool. Going past the portal at the end of the tunnel stage, and looking to the left shows a motionless Kirby model, which I'm gonna guess is from the Crystal Shards. Seriously. Though, sadly, it doesn't register. Which doesn't make that much sense, because if you look to the right, you can see what looks like the entire first stage of Crystal Shards, and everything is fully animated and registered. Oh my god, are you seeing this? It's Todd's satchel from the cutscenes. Something else we haven't touched on is when we see Professor Oak's lab. There's actually a lot of cropped out artwork that you don't normally see. To the right, we see a Pokeball that you or your rival never picked up. And to the left, there's even a jelly donut. Speaking of jelly donuts, there's a model of a jelly donut hidden behind some flowers in the beach stage.
Oh. Wonderful.
Alright, well, last but not least, I've been asked a lot about the unused music track that's for a supposedly deleted course in Snap. It's old news, but if you haven't heard the track, this is it. And I'm happy to show you that the entire course can be found. It's above the river of all places.